The sky over Ivanor 3 was covered with thick green clouds, and the ground was filled with broken stone ruins and fallen trees. Ray adjusted the scanner on his wrist. As he moved carefully through the jungle, his boots made soft sounds against the wet soil. The air was warm, heavy, and smelled of strange plants. He had been sent with a small team to check for signs of life near the old alien ruins, but he had lost contact with them hours ago. Ray was not afraid. He was a soldier. He had served in more dangerous zones than this, but something about this place felt different. The trees were too quiet. The wind carried no birdsong. Only the buzz of insects filled the silence. Then he heard a faint signal coming from the side of a broken hill. Ray followed the signal into a crack in the stone. It opened into a tunnel covered in vines. Inside, there were blinking lights. An old alien machine still running. The walls were smooth and silver, glowing with soft blue lines. He held up his blaster, but there was no one around. He moved deeper until he found a room with a medical table and tanks filled with clear liquid. Something moved on the far side of the room, behind a glass wall. He saw her. She lay still on a floating medical bed, her skin a soft silver blue, her hair dark and tied in woven cords. Her eyes were closed. Metal braces held her legs in place. Her arms looked weak, and her body was thin. She looked young. A mask covered her mouth, giving her slow, steady breaths. Ray moved closer and read the symbols on the glass wall. He didn't understand the alien language fully, but some words were familiar. Royal, injury, do not wake. Who left you here? He whispered. A weak sound came from the girl. Her eyes opened slightly. Pale violet eyes met his. She tried to move but failed. Her lips trembled as she whispered something he couldn't understand, but her expression was clear. She was scared and alone. Ray looked around the room again. No one had been here in a long time. Dust covered the floor. The machines were keeping her alive, but barely. Whoever placed her here had not planned to return. He had a choice to make. He could call command and report her location, or he could help her right now. He made his choice. Ray pushed the button to release the glass door. It opened slowly. Alarms didn't sound. The girl flinched at the sudden movement, but Ray held up his hands. It's okay, he said gently. I'm here to help. She tried to speak again. This time, she pointed weakly at a crystal disc on the table. Ray picked it up and placed it into his translator. Her voice, now filtered through the device, came out soft and broken. Please, don't leave me here. I won't, Ray said firmly. He stepped closer and unhooked the metal braces from her legs. Her body trembled. But she didn't cry out. Her strength was gone. She couldn't walk. I'll carry you, Ray said. She looked surprised but didn't stop him. Her hand reached out slowly and touched his wrist. Her fingers were cold but steady. My name is Ray, he told her as he lifted her into his arms. She was light, far too light for someone her size. She had been here for a long time. She rested her head against his chest and closed her eyes again. Ray moved through the tunnel, holding her tightly. The scanner on his wrist flashed red. Movement ahead. He ducked into cover behind a broken pillar as a patrol of alien guards passed by outside. They wore red armor and spoke in sharp clicks. They didn't notice him. Ray waited until they were gone. Then he ran carefully but quickly back into the jungle. His camp was 2 hours away. He didn't stop. Even when his legs ached or his arms felt heavy, he kept going. The girl didn't speak again, but her hand remained on his chest the whole time. When they reached the outpost, Ray laid her down gently on a soft mat. His medical kit didn't have much, but he cleaned her wounds, gave her fluids, and wrapped a blanket around her. She opened her eyes. Once more, you're not one of us, she said weakly. No, he said. I'm from Earth. Just a soldier. She paused. Why, help me? Ray didn't answer right away. He looked at her, at the metal support still attached to her legs, at her tired face. Because you were alone, he said, and I couldn't walk away. A small smile touched her lips. Luma, she whispered. What? My name, she said. Luma. He nodded. Rest, Luma. You're safe now. She reached into her side pocket and pulled out a small crystal shard. It glowed faintly in her hand. She pressed it into his palm. A gift, she said. Ray didn't understand its meaning, but he took it. He placed it into a pouch on his belt and sat beside her as she fell asleep. Outside, the wind blew through the trees again. The insects grew. Quiet. Ray didn't know who she truly was or what danger he had just invited into his camp. But something inside told him this moment would change his life forever. Ray worked quietly inside the small outpost. The lights flickered, and the power core was low. But it was the safest place he had. He checked the door seals, adjusted the solar panels, and made sure the scanners were still working. Outside, the jungle of Ivanor 3 moved slowly with the wind. Inside, everything was calm except for the soft breathing of the alien girl resting in the center of the room. Luma. She hadn't said much in the last 2 days. Her body was still weak. Ray had done everything he could with the limited tools and medicine he had. He gave her water, crushed herbs for pain, and let her sleep. But now she was awake, and her eyes followed him everywhere. Ray handed her a small bowl of warm broth. She took it with both hands and gave a quiet thank you. Her fingers trembled as she brought it to her lips. "You're healing slowly," Ray said, kneeling beside her. "But your body is strong. You survived worse than this." She smiled faintly. "I was born into pain. But you are different. You speak with kindness." Ray looked down. "I'm just doing what's right." "No," she said. "Many would leave me. My own people did." Her voice was quiet, but her words were full of hurt. She turned her head away and looked at the wall, her eyes distant. Ray hesitated, then asked, "Why did they leave you? You're royalty, aren't you?" Luma nodded slowly. "I am," whispered Princess. "My legs were crushed during a raid. My family believed I had lost the right to lead. They brought me to that hidden place and told me I would be healed. But they never returned." Ray clenched his fists. "That's not right. They should have protected you." "I was a symbol of weakness," she said. "They only want strength." Ray stood and walked to the window, staring at the thick vines. Outside, "Then they don't deserve you." There was silence for a long moment. Luma's voice broke the quiet. "You don't see me as broken." "No, I don't," Ray said. "I see someone brave, someone who didn't give up." That night, they sat outside the shelter under a sky full of strange stars. Ray had placed a blanket on the ground for Luma to sit on. He helped her move gently and sat beside her. A warm wind moved through the leaves, and a soft light from glowing plants made the clearing look like a dream. Luma reached into her pocket and pulled out the same crystal shard she had given him before. She held it up, and the light caught the soft colors inside. "This crystal is part of my family's tradition," she said. "It connects to lives. If someone gives it willingly, it means they trust with all their heart." Ray looked at the crystal, then at her face. "Why give it to me?" She turned to him, her eyes serious. "Because you stayed." Ray didn't know what to say. His heart beat faster, but he stayed still. He had never felt something like this before, not with anyone. Luma raised the crystal and touched it gently to his chest. Her other hand took his. "To my people," she said, "this means something sacred. A bond. It is not forced. It is chosen." Ray's voice was quiet. "And you're choosing me?" She gave a soft nod. Ray took a deep breath. "Then I choose you too." The air between them felt different after that. He didn't fully understand what the ritual meant in her culture, but it was clear it wasn't something small. It wasn't just friendship. It was a deep promise, a connection beyond words. Days passed. Luma's strength slowly returned. Ray built a walking brace using parts from the broken drone nearby. It wasn't perfect, but it helped her stand for a few minutes at a time. One morning, Ray walked into the shelter and found Luma standing on her own. Her body trembled, and she leaned on a metal rod, but she smiled proudly. "You see," she said. "You're amazing," Ray said with a grin. She laughed. It was the first time he had heard her laugh. The sound was soft and beautiful, like the wind in the trees. Later that night, she asked him, "Will you be taken from here soon?" Ray sighed. "They've been trying to contact me, but I turned off the signal." I don't want them to find us yet. If they do, they'll take you back. Maybe send me away. Luma looked down. Then stay. Just for one more day. I'll stay as long as I can, he promised. That night, they sat together under the stars again. Luma leaned against his shoulder. She didn't say much, and neither did he. Words were not needed. The jungle was quiet. No threats. No patrols. Ray knew that peace never lasted long, especially on a planet like this. He had made a choice to protect Luma, and he didn't regret it. But in the back of his mind, he knew others would come soon. He looked down at her sleeping face. Her breathing was calm, and her hand still held his dot. Ray whispered, I don't know what the future holds, but whatever happens, I'll be there for you. Above them, the stars watched in silence. The morning light crept through the cracks in the shelter's metal roof. Ray sat by the window, checking the power cells while Luma practiced walking with the brace he had built. Her steps were slow, careful, and shaky, but each one showed how strong her will was. You're getting better every day, Ray said with a smile. Luma wiped sweat from her forehead and leaned on the support rod. It's not the legs that hurt now. It's the heart. Ray walked over and helped her sit. What do you mean? I don't want this to end, she said softly. This peace, this time with you. Ray looked down. He had felt the same thing. Their bond had grown deeper over the past week. They shared food, stories, laughter, and even quiet moments without speaking. It was more than friendship now, but he also knew something had changed overnight. The signal from his wrist scanner had returned. A blinking light showed that his team had finally locked onto his location. I have to tell you something, he said. Luma turned toward him, worry in her eyes. They found me, Ray said. The rescue ship is close. They'll land in less than an hour. Luma's lips pressed into a thin line. Then you will leave. Ray shook his head. I'll talk to them. I'll try to make them understand. You don't know my people. Luma said, they don't forgive. They don't forget. They'll take me back and use me as a tool for power again. Or worse, they'll hide me forever. Ray sat beside her. I won't let them hurt you. She reached out and took his hand. If they separate us, will you still remember me every day? Ray said. The sound of engines roared in the sky. Dust rose from the jungle trees as a small human dropship landed outside. The door opened, and two soldiers stepped out, weapons down but alert. Behind them came a woman in a Navy uniform. Her name tag read Commander Wells, Sergeant Ray. She said, stepping forward, We've been looking for you. Ray stood. I had to stay. I found someone. Commander Wells raised an eyebrow as Luma stepped into view. Her brace clicked with each step as she walked beside Ray. She's an alien royal, he explained. Her people left her to die. I couldn't walk away. Wells stared at Luma. We have orders to report any contact with the Venery nobility, especially her. You can't take her, Ray said firmly. Wells turned toward him. We don't have a choice. She belongs to her people. And right now, we're working on a fragile peace. Her presence matters. Ray stepped in front of Luma. She's not a symbol. She's a person. Luma touched his shoulder. It's all right. No, it's not, Ray said. Turning to her, she gave him a sad smile. This world needs balance. If I disappear again, it could bring war. If I go willingly, I might help stop it. Ray shook his head. But we made a bond. You gave me the crystal, and I meant it, she said. But sometimes love must wait. Commander Wells lowered her voice. She'll be safe, I promise. Ray's fist tightened, but he stepped aside. Luma leaned forward and placed her forehead gently against his. It was a gesture from her culture. A final promise, she whispered. You gave me back my life. I will return when I can. She handed him the crystal again. It glowed softly in his palm. Then she turned and stepped onto the ship. Ray watched in silence as the door closed and the engines lifted the ship into the air. Leaves flew in the wind, and the sky grew quiet once more. The jungle felt empty. For the next 2 weeks, Ray stayed at the outpost, finishing his mission. He spoke to no one about what happened. He kept the crystal in a pouch around his neck, close to his heart. Every night, He stared at the stars, wondering where Luma was. Messages came in from the command ship. Luma was alive, they said. She was being cared for, but no one could say where. No one could tell him if she was safe or free. Rumors began to spread. Some said the Avenary had taken her to a palace hidden deep in the northern mountains. Others said she had been placed in a golden prison to be shown as a healed royal. One message said she died during transport. Ray didn't believe it. He held onto the memory of her smile, the way she walked with her brace, the way her hand fit into his. He remembered the soft bond ceremony under the stars and the words she whispered to him. "You gave me back my life." Ray knew in his heart that she was alive. He didn't know how or when, but he believed they would meet again. Until then, he would wait, not because she asked him to, but because he wanted to. Because she wasn't just a lost princess. She was the one who changed everything. 5 years had passed since Ray last saw Luma. The war had ended, but the galaxy was not quiet. Talks of peace were always followed by secret meetings, trade deals, and hidden threats. Ray had left the military and now worked as a private security officer on Epsilon Station, a massive diplomatic hub that floated in deep space near the edge of neutral territory. The station was preparing for the biggest event in its history, a royal crowning. For the first time, the Avenary Empire had agreed to choose a queen who would lead through peace instead of power. Rumors spread that the new queen had survived terrible injury and still walked with difficulty. No one knew her name, only that she had risen from darkness. Ray didn't think much of it. The Avenary had many royal lines, and his time with Luma felt like another life. Still, every time he saw the stars, he remembered the jungle, the quiet nights, and the way she said his name. On the day of the event, the main hall was filled with alien diplomats, soldiers, and leaders from across the galaxy. Ray stood by the side of the room in his black security uniform, watching the guests arrive. Tall Avenary guards lined the walkway. They were silent and cold, wearing armor that shimmered like ice. Then the music changed. Everyone turned toward the grand entrance as the doors opened. A woman stepped inside slowly, walking with the help of smooth silver supports attached to her legs. She wore a flowing robe of dark blue, her silver blue skin glowing softly under the lights. Her hair was styled in royal braids, and a thin crown rested on her head. Ray's heart stopped. It was her. Luma. He didn't move. He couldn't even breathe. She walked past the crowds, calm and proud. Her steps steady despite the metal supports. Her eyes didn't scan the crowd. She looked straight ahead, as if the weight of the galaxy rested on her shoulders. When she reached the center, she placed one hand on a golden stone. A voice spoke over the speakers. "By law and right, by strength and mercy, we name you Queen of the Avenary." The hall erupted into cheers. Ray stood still. His chest felt heavy, and his mind was full of questions. Why hadn't she contacted him? Did she forget him? Was their bond lost? Later that evening, the station held a royal dinner in her honor. Ray remained near the edge of the hall, guarding the area like always. He told himself to stay focused. She was a queen now, part of a world far beyond his reach. But something felt strange. She had not smiled once, not when she received gifts, not when she was praised. She looked calm. Yes, but not happy. As the crowd slowly left the hall, one of the Avenary guards approached Ray. "Security officer Ray?" Ray nodded. "That's me. You are requested in the private garden," the guard said. Ray frowned. "By who?" The guard gave a small bow. "By Her Majesty, Queen Luma." Ray followed the silent guard through long silver halls and into a small garden filled with glowing flowers and clear water fountains. It was quiet, peaceful. The stars outside shone through a glass dome. Luma stood by the edge of the pool, her back turned. Ray stepped forward. "Luma?" She turned. "Do you remember me?" she asked softly. Ray didn't speak. He just stared. "I'm the disabled alien princess you had mate with," she said with a smile that finally reached her eyes. Ray laughed under his breath and stepped closer. "You haven't changed at all." Her voice was quiet. "But everything around me has." She walked to a bench and sat down carefully. Ray joined her, his heart still racing. I wanted to contact you, she said, but I was being watched. My family wanted to erase the past. They tried to keep me hidden, but the people saw me differently. They remembered the story of the princess who was left behind and rose again. I heard rumors, Ray said. I didn't believe any of them. They were half true, she said. I trained in secret, learned to walk again, fought to keep my place, and now I wear a crown I never wanted. Ray looked at her. You don't seem happy. I'm not, she whispered. Not without you. His throat tightened. I didn't forget you, she continued. Every day, I wore the bond crystal. I kept it close, even when they tried to take it. Ray reached into his shirt and pulled out the same crystal she had given him. I kept mine too. They both stared at the twin shards, still glowing faintly after all these years. There's something else, Luma said. I didn't just ask you here for memories. Ray leaned forward. What is it? I'm in danger. She said, there are some among the Avenary who hate what I represent. A queen who walks with help. A queen who bonded with a human. They want me removed. Ray's voice became firm. Who? I don't know, she said. But they will act soon. Maybe here. Maybe after the station meeting ends. You need protection. Ray said. She nodded. I trust no one but you. Ray stood. Then I'll guard you myself. Luma reached out and took his hand. They'll say this bond is wrong, that it weakens me. Ray held her hand tighter. Then let them speak. I won't let them take you again. The two sat there in silence. Their hands joined, the stars shining down on them. The world around them had changed, but their bond had not. For the first time in years, they were together again. But trouble was coming, and this time they would face it side by side. Night fell over Epsilon Station. The halls were quiet now, filled only with the hum of power lines and distant sounds of soft patrol boots. Most guests had returned to their quarters. After the long day of celebration, security officers walked their routes, unaware of what was coming. Ray stayed near Queen Luma's private chambers. He wasn't on duty, not officially, but he refused to leave her side. After their quiet meeting in the garden, he knew something was wrong. Her words kept replaying in his head. I'm in danger. I trust no one but you. Luma was not the same girl he had rescued 5 years ago. She was stronger now, more controlled, and wise beyond her years. But even now, he could see fear behind her eyes. She was queen in name, but enemies moved in shadows. Ray stood by the main door, alert. His hand rested near the small pulse blade. At his belt, the guards on duty gave him odd looks now and then, but none questioned him. Word had spread fast the queen knew him. That was enough to keep them quiet. He checked his wrist scanner again. It picked up strange signals near the west quarter brief power dips, motion alerts with no source. Small things that didn't look like much alone, but added up to something bigger. His instincts said trouble was near. Just as he was about to report the activity, the lights in the hall flickered. The guards stiffened. Ray turned toward the source. A moment later, a high-pitched sound pierced the silence. One of the guards dropped to the floor, unconscious. Ray grabbed his blade. Protect the queen, he shouted. A shadow moved fast across the wall. 2 more guards fell, hit by small darts from hidden attackers. Ray jumped forward and slammed a panel on the wall. A shield door began closing around Luma's room. But before it could lock completely, a figure slid underneath the shield and disappeared inside. No, Ray whispered. He ran toward the room as another figure appeared before him. Tall and covered in black armor, the attacker swung a sharp energy staff, and Ray dodged it by inches. The hallway echoed with the sound of the weapons clashing. Ray fought with focus and speed. He wasn't as strong as the enemy, but he was faster. He rolled under another swing, stabbed upward with his blade, and hit the enemy in the leg. The attacker stumbled back, and Ray ran into Luma's room. Inside, the lights were dim. One attacker stood near her, holding a blade close to her neck. Luma was sitting calmly on the edge of her bed, legs braced, hands on her lap. Her voice was calm. You shouldn't have come. Ray stepped forward. Let her go. The attacker turned toward him. You are the human, he said coldly. The mistake. Ray's eyes narrowed. and you're the coward hiding behind a queen." The attacker raised his blade to strike, but before he could move, Luma lifted her hand. A sharp pulse of energy burst from her palm, knocking the attacker back. Ray rushed forward and helped her up. "Are you all right?" She nodded. "They were sent by the inner circle. I knew they would try something during the quiet hours." Ray looked down at the fallen figure. "They tried to make it look like a robbery. They wanted me dead before." "The council meets tomorrow," Luma said. "If I die now, they can blame outsiders. They can put someone else on the throne." Ray helped her walk to the far corner of the room. "We can't trust anyone. You need to leave the station." "I can't," she said. "If I run, they win. The people need to see me stand, no matter the risk." Ray looked into her eyes. "Then I won't leave your side." She gave a small smile. Just like before. More guards arrived and secured the area. The attackers were taken into custody, but they refused to speak. They wore no royal markings, no signs of identity. Ghosts sent to silence a queen. Ray stayed with Luma the entire night. They sat near the window of her private chamber, watching the stars. "Do you ever think about the jungle?" Luma asked quietly. "Every night," Ray answered. "I remember the way you carried me," she said. "I felt safe for the first time." "You were never weak," Ray said. Even then, she looked at him. "Do you know what our bond truly meant?" Ray shook his head. "Only that it mattered. In our culture, it's more than a promise." She said, "It's a union of spirit. It links us, even from far away." Ray listened carefully. "Most thought I would break it," she continued, "that I would forget you once I returned. But I couldn't. The bond doesn't allow lies. That's why they fear you." Ray was silent. "You're not just a human," she said. "You're part of me, and they can't erase that." Ray leaned back and looked at the stars. "I didn't know what it meant back then, but I knew it was real." Luma reached into her robe and pulled out her half of the crystal. She held it in the light, and it shimmered with a soft glow. Ray pulled his half from round his neck. When they placed the two pieces side by side, they pulsed gently, the light growing brighter. "No one can break this," she whispered. The stars above them blinked silently. Ray looked at her. "Then we face whatever comes next together." Luma rested her head on his shoulder. "We may not have peace yet, but I feel stronger now." "You were always strong," Ray said. "Now, they'll see it too." Morning would come soon. The council would meet. Enemies would move again. But for now, they had each other, and that was enough. The morning light spread through Epsilon Station's silver walls as the council gathering began. Inside the central dome, leaders from across the galaxy sat in circles of polished stone and steel. Flags of different worlds hung behind them. The large hall was filled with quiet whispers and curious glances. At the center, Queen Luma entered with slow but steady steps. Her support braces clicked softly on the floor, but her head remained high. Her robe trailed behind her like waves of blue silk. Beside her, Ray walked in full security gear, eyes sharp, hand close to his weapon. The room fell silent as Luma reached the center. A tall Venery elder rose from his seat. His name was Lord Theron, a well-known noble who had once voted against Luma's return to power. "The Queen walks today with a human guard," he said coldly. "Why?" Luma looked at him calmly. "Because I trust him with my life." Murmurs filled the room. Theron narrowed his eyes. "You place your life in the hands of an outsider." Ray didn't speak. He kept his eyes on the crowd. He could feel the tension rising. Luma replied, "This outsider saved me when my own people left me behind. He gave me strength when my legs failed. That is not weakness. That is loyalty." Theron didn't respond, but others in the room nodded slightly. The story of her past had begun to spread. Suddenly, the lights in the chamber dimmed for a brief second. Ray noticed it first. He tapped his scanner and saw unusual readings movement behind the walls. Heat spikes near the council seats. His heart beat faster. "There's something wrong," he whispered to Luma. Before she could reply, the floor near the far side of the chamber cracked open. A loud blast shook the room, and smoke filled the air. Panic broke out from the shadows. Masked attackers rushed in. They were black armor with no marks, just like the ones from before. Ray pushed Luma behind one of the central pillars. "Stay low," he said. He drew his weapon and fired at the attackers. One fell, but more came from the other side. Council guards scrambled to defend the leaders. But they were unprepared. Luma pressed her hand to her wrist. A soft glow appeared, and her leg braces locked into a stable mode. She stood fully and faced the chaos. "Ray," she said, "I must speak." "It's too dangerous," he said, blocking a strike from one attacker. She shook her head. "If I run now, they'll say I was weak. Let them hear me." Ray nodded, then stood in front of her, shielding her with his body as they moved to the center again. Luma raised her voice, strong and clear. "Listen to me. This is what they fear. A queen who survived. A queen who walks with help. Yes, but who walks with truth." Her voice echoed through the dome. The attackers tried to reach her again, but Ray fought them back. One blade struck his shoulder, and he grunted in pain but didn't fall. Guards began to push forward now, gaining control. Luma continued. "They fear that I bonded with someone not of my race. But this bond has made me stronger, not weaker." She turned to Theron. "If you strike me down, you strike down your own people's hope." Ray fell to one knee, bleeding from his arm. Luma stepped toward him and knelt beside him. "You kept your promise. I told you I would," Ray said. Breathing heavily, Theron stood once more, but this time he looked unsure. Others around him stood to not in anger, but in respect. One council member from the Huron system called out, "If this queen is brave enough to stand and fire, she deserves our support." Another added, "She could have hidden. She didn't." The remaining attackers tried to retreat, but were caught by the guards. The room fell quiet again. Luma looked around. "I am not here to bring division. I am here to build a future where our people are not trapped by old ideas. I do not walk alone, and I will not rule alone." She reached down and helped Ray to his feet. The two stood side by side. The bond. Crystal on Ray's neck glowed faintly again. Theron finally bowed his head. "May the queen rise as she chooses." Cheers broke out across the chamber after the meeting ended. Luma and Ray were taken to the medical bay. Ray's wound was deep, but clean. As the medics worked, Luma sat beside him. "You saved me again," she said. "You didn't need saving." Ray replied, "You stood tall." "I just did my part." She smiled. "Still, thank you." Ray looked at her. "They'll never come after you again. You've won them over." "Not all of them," Luma said, "but enough." She leaned closer. "They saw us together. They know what we are now. I'm ready for what comes next." Ray held her hand. "So am I?" The garden outside the station glowed softly under the starlight. The danger had passed for now, but something new had begun. Luma was no longer just a survivor or a hidden royal. She was now a queen chosen not just by blood, but by action, and she was not alone. The stars above Epsilon Station shined brighter than usual. The skies were clear, and the air inside the gardens was warm and peaceful. It had been 1 week since the attack on the council. Repairs were underway, and new guards stood watch around the station. But more importantly, the people were changing. They had seen something they didn't expect, a queen who stood her ground, a human who never gave up. Ray sat on a bench near the glowing blue trees, his arm wrapped in fresh bandages. He breathed slowly, watching the leaves move in the soft breeze. It had been a long journey for him, from Earth's army base to an alien throne room. He never imagined any of this. He heard soft footsteps behind him. Luma stood there, wearing a simple robe instead of her queen's cloak. Her support braces were still in place, but they had been upgraded. She moved more freely now, with more confidence. "You're healing well," she said, sitting beside him. "Not as fast as you." He smiled. "I had help," she replied. They sat in silence for a moment, watching small creatures hop between flowers. The bond crystal around Ray's neck glowed softly again, the same color as Luma's. She turned to him. "Do you regret it, the bond?" Ray shook his head. "Not even once. Meeting you changed everything for me. I was just a soldier before. Now I feel like I have a purpose." Luma looked thoughtful. "Back then, when we first met, I was broken. My own people had given up on me, but you didn't. Even though you didn't understand our customs, you stayed. I didn't need to understand your customs, Ray said. I saw you. I knew you deserved better. Her eyes softened. And now I'm queen. But I don't want to rule with fear. I want to change how our people live. I want to bring humans and my people together. No more hiding. No more shame. Ray nodded. You're the right one to do it. She leaned closer. I want you with me. Ray looked at her carefully. I'm already with you. I don't just mean as a guard, she said, or a protector. I mean by my side, as someone I chose, as someone I already accepted long ago. Ray stayed quiet, letting her words settle. She continued, I know your world doesn't follow our bond ways, but our bond is real. I feel it, and I believe you do too. He smiled gently. I do. I've felt it since the day I carried you out of that escape pod. The garden lights shifted as the sun began to rise over the distant moon. A golden glow washed over the station. Luma stood and reached her hand toward him. Come with me, she said. Ray took her hand and stood beside her. Together, they walked toward the main plaza where a large gathering had begun to form. Council leaders, military officers, and civilians all waited in rows. A new ceremony was taking place. At the center of the plaza, a large platform had been built. Symbols of both Luma's house and Earth's fleet were carved into the stone. As they reached the top, the crowd grew quiet. A young speaker stepped forward and addressed the people. Today, we witness a new beginning, a queen who came from loss, a human who came from war. But together, they brought peace. Luma stepped forward. I was once told that I would never rule, that I was too weak, that I had no value. But I lived, I rose, and I bonded with someone who showed me more courage than any council ever did. This is not just my rule. This is our future. She turned to Ray and extended her hand again, not as queen to guard, but as one heart to another. Ray stepped forward without hesitation. He took her hand. A soft golden light surrounded them. The bond crystal between them glowed brighter than ever before. Everyone could see it now. Their connection, their trust, their promise. The crowd bowed. As one dot later that evening, as the stars returned, Luma and Ray walked the quiet halls of the palace wing. I never thought I'd wear royal colors, Ray joked, pulling at the collar of his formal robe. Luma laughed. You still don't wear them right. He smiled. Guess I'll need a queen to help me. She nodded. You'll have one. They stopped near the balcony overlooking the glowing city below. Ships moved across the sky like silent birds, and towers reached upward into the night. You know, Ray said, I still remember that first moment when I opened that pod and saw you. I thought I was just rescuing someone, and I thought I was finished, she said. But I wasn't. You reminded me I still had a life to live. She leaned into him, and now we both do. Ray held her hand, gently but firmly. No matter what comes next, he said, I'm with you. She smiled. Always, always. The stars above them shined quietly, as if listening to their vow. And for the first time in many years, Luma felt no fear about tomorrow. She had returned. She had healed, and she was no longer alone.